Hello and good morning. It's Phil Thatch and I'm here at home at this zinnia bed that Heather and I planted. We planted it this spring. It's early August now, and we planted 46 little zinnias, little tiny ones in this bed, and they haven't all survived, but the ones that have really filled it out almost too much. I think next year we might plant 12 instead of 46. But what I've got here is I have my Nikon Z50, and this is Heather's Tamron 18-400 lens, which is a lens that's capable of doing semi-macro photography. And I have the NIKKOR F-mount 200-500, which is also capable of semi-macro photography. Let's see, I got these out of order. I have the ZDX 50-250, which is capable of semi-macro photography, and I have the F-mount 105 f2.8 macro lens, which is the only lens of these that's an actual macro lens. And I was going to take a few shots of these flowers, and maybe with there's occasionally some bees and moths that are landing on them, and kind of compare which one of these lenses I like using on a Z-mount DX camera. I'm doing some shots handheld, and others I'm tripoding up and using a timer and a diffuser. It's really hard light today. Channeling my inner Mike Moats. So here's my thoughts on the 18-400 for this type of work. It works really, really well. The minimum focus distance is fairly close. Let's say we'll focus on this flower right here. And at 400 millimeters on a crop sensor camera, you can pretty much fill the frame with this flower that's just 1.5 inches or 2 inches across. So it works great for that. Really the only thing I don't like about it is the autofocus on it. The only way I could describe it is slow. It is slow, slow, slow. It seems accurate, but it's very slow. It's not the interface with the FTZ, it's just the focus motors in this lens appear really slow. But for the price and for what all it can do, I mean, it's hard to beat it. All right, here is the first photograph. This is with the Tamron 18-400. None of the photographs in this video are extremely outstanding. I was just kind of trying to get a feel for each lens and see how each lens felt to work with. I will say this about the Tamron: when I was looking through the pictures that I made, I missed focus with it more than any of the other lenses, but this one was in focus. Well, the 200-500 has the best reach of all the lenses, but the minimum focus distance, although way better than my 500 f4, for example, which I'm not including in this test because the minimum focus distance is like 10 or 12 feet. The minimum focus distance, if I'm going to focus on this flower right here, I have to go back. Oh, tripod. Right there. That's how far back I have to be to get that flower in focus. So, but, you know, because you have to scoot back further to make your shot, you kind of come up with, you know, by force, you're forced to come up with some different compositions. And I was able to get some interesting shots with this lens. This has been my butterfly lens for a few years. And unfortunately, there's not any butterflies out here this morning, but I'm sure I'll use this for butterfly photography later. But I think the 18-400 would possibly be an even better butterfly lens. The 200-500 is the lens out of this set that I've had the longest, and I really enjoy shooting with it, and I'm always able to get results that I'm satisfied with. I really like this photograph. Even though I don't think the 200-500 wins this competition, it still is definitely worth considering for this type of work. It's amazing how much that diffuser helps the pictures. But if you're trying to catch a animal, at least at this time of day, you know, Mike Moats would suggest that you get up really early when the insects are there but not moving, and then you might could use the diffuser, but it's way too midday for that right now. The insects are moving a lot. Okay, so now I've been shooting with the 50 to 250, and it's, I tell you what, you know, it's the cheapest lens in the bunch. I don't know how much it costs by itself, but if you buy it with the Z50 kit, with the 2-lens kit, you can get the whole thing for like $1,200 or $1,300, maybe less. But anyway, let's see. Let's check its minimum focus distance on this flower right here. Of course, our focal length is half as much, but it'll focus right there. Oh, I'm on a timer for that last shot. Anyway, much, much closer. So you can fill the frame with the flower just as much with this lens as you can with the 200 to 500 because the minimum focus distance is so much smaller. Now, if you're trying to do insect photography, you might spook them, but if you're just doing flowers, they're not going to run away. Flowers don't tend to do that. So the focus speed of this one, you know, I talked about the focus speed of the 18 to 400 Tamron, which is slow. The focus speed's slow on this too, but both of those lenses are really inexpensive lenses. And really the 200 to 500 is an inexpensive lens, and its focus is slow when compared to my 500 f4, but compared to these, it's rocket fast. Okay, my favorite photo of the day comes with the cheapest lens that I use, and it seemed to nail focus the best of all 4 lenses, and maybe that's because it's native Z instead of having to use the FTZ adapter, but I really like the way this photograph came out of this bee on the zinnias. Well, it turns out the macro lens is a really good macro lens. Who would have thunk it? Check out this minimum focus distance on this flower. Of course, now, you don't always want to get this close. And, you know, this lens can get crazy close, but that may not be the most artistic way to make a photograph of this flower. So that's why the other lenses can compete, because you don't have to get super close. But with this lens, you can get the closest of all of them. You know, this lens is the most difficult to shoot with because you can get so close, and you have to shoot closer because it's only 105 millimeters. Depth of field becomes more difficult. If you need to get a lot of stuff in focus, you got to stop this lens down a lot further. The other lenses I was shooting wide open, which they're not fast lenses, 6.3 and 5.6. But when you're shooting further back, there's more depth of field. This lens, you have to shoot closer, so there's less depth of field. So if you need more, you have to stop the lens down, and then you need more light. So you might need a tripod. It's more difficult with this lens, but this lens can yield the best results. Okay, so I'm not super thrilled with this photograph, but this is my favorite example that I got with the 105 f2.8 macro. Like I say, it's a little bit more difficult to shoot with, but I do like the way this one came out, and I wish I had stopped it down a little more. This is at f9. I think f11 probably would have been better, but by the time I figured that out, I was already back inside. So I'm going to say winner overall goes to the actual macro lens, and I'm going to say most versatile and ease of use champion is the 18 to 400, because this can do not only macro, of course now you can do portraits with the 105 and it's good for a number of types of photography, but this is good for landscape, wildlife, and everything in between, including macro photography. So this is going to be best all around and best value. I take that back. The 50 to 250 is going to be best value because it's so inexpensive and it can do quite a bit of stuff. It can't do wildlife as good as that one or landscape as good as that one because it's not as long or as wide, but it's super cheap. You can get it for almost nothing when you buy it with the camera, and it can do this kind of work. And it's got vibration reduction. Actually, all these have vibration reduction, or the Tamron calls it vibration control, same thing. You know, if you're on a budget and you get the Z50 2-lens kit, you can do without these other lenses. This lens will get the job done for you unless you need extra super close macro, and then you'll need a real macro lens. But for flower photography, this will do it. And this one's going to place last today. Its biggest weakness is its minimum focus distance, but that's also its biggest strength because it can make a semi-macro shot from a pretty good ways back, which so can the Tamron, but this one even further back. So if you've got an insect or a butterfly that might spook if you get close to it, this one might be the best for that. The Tamron would be second best, and the macro lens would be the worst for spooking the insect you're trying to get a picture of. But like I said earlier, flowers don't run, and like Mike Moat says, get out early in the morning when it's still cool, and the insects won't move away as quick until it starts to warm up. So all in all, they'll all work, and I use all 4 of these for flower photography. But the overall best and most difficult is the actual macro lens, the 105 2.8 macro. The best value is the kit lens that comes with the Z50. Best all around is the Tamron 18 to 400. And the best for making your macro photos from a distance is the 200 to 500. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. If you like the content, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see some more, subscribe and hit the bell. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye.